Phonpadith here with the SOAR Community Network. I'm so excited to share with you a testimonial for Akia Garnett's Think Big program. I was interviewed by Akia just several weeks ago, and we talked about the power of authentic messaging, emotional marketing, and how to really get your authentic, true message out into the market, to your intended audience. And what resulted from that interview just the day following was a call from an audience member who just randomly stumbled upon the program, watched the entire thing, and decided the very next day to contact me and the SEN community to talk about how we might be able to help his brand and his business authentically message to his intended audience. So we ended up with a new client, helping our client with vision and mission mapping, helping them soar, and really deciding where he wants to take his business and brand from here. So we're so excited to share that that was possible because we were a part of and were featured on Akia Garnett's Think Big program. So you should check it out, definitely connect with her. She has done some incredible things, featured some really amazing thought leaders, and just a wealth of knowledge and a really good friend. So thank you for all you do, Akia, and I love your program. Keep going.
Welcome to this week's edition of Think Big. I am your host, Akia Garnett, and I'm so excited because I'm joined in the studio by my friend, Molly. Thank you so much for coming back into the studio.
Thank you for having me.
Great. Molly and I have done a lot of work around this whole concept of vision and vision casting and mission work and how the two relate. And the work that we've done has been around corporate and also personal brands. It's a lot of fun to put a brand out there. It's not as easy to make it make sense all the way through, from conception to implementation and execution. And so we're going to spend just a little bit of time talking about all those things tonight and so much more. But first, Molly has all of her great publications laid out, which I am so excited to talk about. The first one, Born to Be Me, which is your latest beautiful piece. Yes. Tell us about it.
Well, Born to Be Me is a collection of 19 women from across the globe, actually, mostly Canada and U.S., who contributed a chapter each and shares their journey, their authentic journey. Some of it is traumatic, yet very triumphant. Others are just very creative, and people are just showing up as who they're born to be.
Oh my gosh.
So I'm really excited to be a part of this experience. We just hit the #1 international bestseller a couple weeks ago. And we did it in 24 hours.
I was going to say on the first
It was
day,
amazing,
right?
yes.
That's so you. Born to Be Me. It is so you. Tell us, how did it even come about?
You know, a dear friend of ours, Mayma Carmo, she had a really strong...
Mayma.
Hey, Mayma. She had a really strong relationship with a publisher, Carol Starr Taylor, who's in Canada. And through their relationship, Mayma learned about her Sisterhood Folio. So it's a series where she's collecting women from all over the globe to contribute to a series of these books. This particular book, Born to Be Me, is the #2 of the many more series to come. The first book, Live Out Loud, also hit the #1 international bestseller. So we were excited, and we had really high hopes that Born to Be Me would also have that same fate. And it, in fact, did. So we're so
well
excited.
Done. It looks amazing.
Thank you.
Wow. So how did you decide what you were going to write on for your part?
You know, it made it so easy, Akia, that I had my memoir, A Million Fireflies,
Yes.
already written 6 years ago. And I can't believe it's been 6 years, by
No,
the way.
not
And
at all.
also our Seen and Sustained book that we wrote together.
Right.
Those two books came out the same year in
Yeah.
2011. Do you
Right.
remember
Oh my
that?
gosh, yeah.
Oh my gosh. It was just.
Sheesh.
So that it made it easy for me to contribute something authentic because I already had practiced sharing. And the first time I really thought about my story and put it out into the world in 2011, it was a totally different experience. I was anxious. It took me 5 years,
Right.
first and foremost, to write the book. This one, I wrote this chapter in basically 2 weeks.
Seriously, wow.
Because you come to a place in your life where you just know who you are. And I had already shared and shed all of my traumas and pains, and also, you know, I don't want to just focus on the trauma and pain. I also have a beautiful life. I have
Right.
many blessings. And so writing the book from where I am today is much easier because there's confidence there and there's trust that I'm divinely held and that I'm on path and all is as it should be.
Did you have to pretty much, I guess, pull it back in terms of the things that you didn't have the time or space to talk about, so you can really zoom in on those things that you really wanted to share in this piece?
Yeah, I think the most important thing about this particular chapter is that I got to bring some closure into the A Million Fireflies experience, because if you remember at the end of my A Million Fireflies chapter, it was really an open-ended question to the universe and to myself, like, what's next for me?
Right.
Am I ever going to find love again after losing my late fiance? Am I ever going to just, like, what is my path? You know, I still was on that journey, and I'm still on that journey, of course, you know. But writing this book was really, I was so happy to share with a lot of my fans and followers who still write me about A Million Fireflies that I am happily married now. I found the soulmate, the love of my life, and he understands everything that I've gone through. I talk about where I am with my business and how much that's grown. And I just feel like I'm soaring, and I'm sharing it from that space. You know, I'm wanting to help people understand that even if they feel stuck or if they've been in a very hard, challenging time in their lives, that there is hope in the end of the tunnel of moving forward. So just keep moving forward.
Wow. Would you say that book and the chapter that you wrote really resonates positively with your personal brand, or is it more overarching?
It's more overarching, and because I've realized that you can't be one without
Right.
the other.
Right.
I am my personal brand. I am my corporate brand. I'm all of who I am. And at the same time, just because I've fallen back in love with myself, which means, you know, the soul that we came into the world as, just pure love and unconditional love, it gives you a different space and perspective to share as well. And so it's more personal in the sense that when people pick this book up, there's no more hiding behind that corporate facade. Like, I have to be successful. I have to be number one. I don't have to be anything. I just, you know, I'm seeking happiness, and I'm seeking harmony and peace in my life, really.
Wow. I mean, and so then you've been doing work with the Better Business Bureau, right? And that's this wonderful piece, this magazine that you have here.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Well, I brought this because, you know, we were going to talk a lot about vision tonight.
Right.
And as a child refugee of war coming from Laos and landing here at the age of 5, you know, living off of food stamps, having a church sponsor us, I think about all the moments in my young life that I really thought about what did I expect out of life? I mean, people in my neighborhood weren't getting out. And so it really helped me to sit back and realize I was a daydreamer.
Yeah.
You know, I really just didn't buy into my reality, and people used to pick on me about talking to birds and daydreaming because I was daydreaming,
Well,
but
it's funny
really
you
what
say,
I
you
was,
say it was, but you still are.
I still am.
You still are.
Because I believe there are things out there in the world that we can't touch and see. We just have to have faith. And that's what it was like for me as a child living in PG County, which is a beautiful county now, and Southeast DC. I lived in Southeast DC, and when we were growing up, it wasn't so pretty. It's beautiful now. But that brings me back to your question is, you know, I've always been envisioning my ideal life. And when you talked about the Better Business Bureau, and I wrote a piece inside here about becoming turning from a good leader into a great leader, I thought, what are the odds of me coming out of that refugee camp with my family and being able to write now 4 books, #1 international bestseller with these amazing women, being featured as a thought leader with an organization like the Better Business Bureau. It's mind-blowing.
Right.
And I'm so humbled by it, because you know me, I get a little uncomfortable when talking about these things. But I also am learning how to just honor that. I mean, this is my path. We've worked hard to get here. I've worked hard to get here, and it's all brilliant. It's all perfect.
Right. And that the Better Business Bureau certainly wasn't something on your vision board, was it? Yeah. How did that even develop? How did that relationship come about?
You know, it was through an introduction from Elaine Espinola-Keltz, and she was doing a podcast for them on the consumer side, and she thought, you know, the type of work you do might not necessarily be 100% consumer driven, but it's definitely business to business. So maybe you can talk about leadership from an organizational and corporate standpoint, messaging internally, so that the branding externally makes sense. And so I will say, my dreams and my visions have come to life because of the beautiful relationships that I formed. Mayma introducing me to Carol Starr Taylor, you reaching out to me, and the other ladies when we wanted to write and launch Seen and Sustain. And it's all about relationships. It's all about what you put out into the world is what you get back tenfold.
Right. And then your book of beautiful affirmations.
Yes.
Tell us about that one.
Well, that was something I did just a few years ago, and it was self-published. It was something that I just did through Create Space, because there were a lot of questioning when I was doing my corporate retreats and my personal retreats. People were trying to uncover their visions and their mission for their lives, and a lot of folks asked me, what are some of the modalities you practice to stay in harmony? Because life has been hard for all of us. We've all gone through trauma. All of us will not escape this life without having some type of loss. And so, you know, a lot of the questions came from the attendees and from clients. How do you do it? And I said, well, every day I meditate. Every day I do EFT, emotional freedom technique. I have to do a shout out to Bev Nierenberg for teaching me how to do that. Thank you so much, because it's been a few years of me doing that every day. And I also capture my gratitudes. I create my affirmations, and I capture my gratitudes on a daily basis. And what I thought was, well, at least for my participants, I wanted to create something very simple. And what I did was I personalized it by taking all of the pictures that I've collected throughout, you know, my travels. So all these came from my cameras. And then I gave an example of an affirmation so that it would give some type of guidance to those that would pick up this book. And then there's also, for instance, here, there's some lines where people can write their own. And it all starts with I am, you know, because we are in a society where we spend a lot of time in our past, stuck there. I've been there. We spend a lot of time dreaming of our future. And we miss the present moment completely. And it makes it hard because the present moment is already by default so fleeting. So just having to capture those moments in that space and time, if you can really focus on being mindful, really articulating your desires, it helps. It helps you focus the rest of your day, the rest of your week around your actions that you would take toward your intentions.
Right. I mean, and you just finished up the Leadership Summit for SOAR Community Network. I mean, how amazing is that? This is what, your second or third year?
Second. This was second
year. I'm assuming that the third date, the year.
Well,
you know,
I'm
not going to put that out there until
we're not going to put it out there yet. We want to take a couple months off. We had some great lessons learned in the last couple years. We know there's a huge need for it. Oh my gosh. I mean, the feeling that we get from hosting these things from a personal standpoint. Victor, who's my husband, who also is my business partner, we really love how it makes everybody else feel. Like, we send out these surveys and it always comes back just like, I feel so safe in an environment with business leaders, people who are doing great things in the world, and they can still come together and share so many personal things. So we talk a lot about legacy leadership. We talk a lot about being vulnerable in that leadership role. And so we're just trying to figure out how do we get the right sponsors involved so it becomes more of something that we can focus on truly giving to the community versus the logistics of it all. You know, covering all the costs and
Right.
getting the venues and contracts.
It's a lot of work.
It's a huge amount of commitment
Yeah.
and a lot of dollars.
Right.
So we want to just be smart now that we've got some lessons learned about how do we want to move forward with our third annual summit, if there is one.
Well, you know, what I really love about the summit and just about doing business in the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area is that it really is a unique business community.
Yes, it is.
And the fact that you have been able to bring people together for 2 years into a safe space and to not only learn new things, but to build those relationships, to strengthen their bonds, to cultivate new ones. It's a great thing. I take my hat off to you for that.
Thank you. You know, I love this show because you reach an international audience. People are watching from all over the world. And I think sometimes Washington, D.C. gets quite a bad reputation around the people here in terms of the business community. And of course, there's politics here. We have Washington, D.C. That's
Capitol
enough
Hill.
said. But in terms of the business community, we have so many great organizations. We have tons of associations and nonprofits. We're here in Washington because the close proximity to decision making and to policy making, and I think I want to honor the business leaders who really have chosen Washington, D.C. to do their part,
Yeah.
to do their very best to create some social change in our community and thus the world. So I love this community. The type of leadership summit we host really inspires those leaders that really care about their role to become developed, to get developed, and to really recognize that they are making decisions that matter and that they count, and that we're here to develop them. So
Right.
it's a remarkable part of our business model to help business
Right.
owners really understand their own truest vision and mission for life and how that can be infused throughout their organization.
I mean, and you're not just doing that through the summit, but also through your breakfast series. I mean, that's also another opportunity to bring people together, and you're doing that. Is it monthly?
We do it monthly, so we have the SEN, SOAR Community Network Breakfast Series, and we've been hosting that for over 10 years now. We've rebranded from the Young Professional Leadership Group. It was originally founded by Steve Dorfman and Misty Burmeister, modeled after Alan Kroll's Rest and Leadership Breakfast, and then Jack Gates. I give them credit because without their hard work, we would not be here after 10 years. And so the Leadership Breakfast brings incredible talent, incredible thought leaders who volunteer their time, by the way, to come and spend basically 2 hours with a community of business leaders who really are hungry and are really interested in becoming the best version of themselves in a leadership role.
Right.
So we welcome anybody who wants to learn about that to go on our website and learn about our breakfast series. It's held the first Tuesday of every month.
Yeah. I mean, and just, you know, when I launched my business website long ago, Molly was one of the people who was she was on my list of folks, internal friends, if you will, who would just give me some quick and candid feedback before we went public. Same thing when you launched your business. You know, I was in the group
yes.
of community friends and so forth.
Constructive criticism.
Now, you know, that was how many years ago when you launched?
Oh my gosh, in January it will be 7 years
Right.
that the business has been birthed and alive and,
Right.
and now thriving.
Right. I mean,
Knock
and
on wood.
your vision that day was one thing, and you've had a chance to see it evolve over the years. What does it look like now versus what it looked like then?
You know, it's interesting. I always get emotional when you ask me this question because I think when we start a business or when we start any initiative, right? Let's be real. Not everybody is out there launching a business, but those that are really launching something that they're passionate about, it's your baby.
Right.
You know, it's
Right.
your heart and soul. It's everything that you have ever imagined it would be. When you finally launch it, you're still in that excitement mode. And then, just like life, things get hard. You
Right.
now understand that you have to consider the market. You have to consider if you are targeting the right markets, all those things that we have to consider as a business owner. And I would say when I launched the business, I was a little naive because coming from financial services for 7 years,
Right.
and working, oh my gosh, high level, left brained, constantly looking at numbers and portfolios. I went to the extreme opposite. I was like, no more math, no more science. I want to go do messaging from the heart. I know you're laughing.
I remember this conversation
Yes.
very clearly.
I want to do messaging from the heart. I'm a poet, I'm a singer, I'm a songwriter. That all that part of me is dying, and I just can't. My soul is dying, and I can't live my
What do you
life
think
that
made
way.
you not want to do that anymore? That was an interesting period.
You know, well, I've balanced that out now,
Yeah.
but I think at that time I was just, my inner child was so tired. I had been running from war. I grew up here basically in like some of the poorest parts of town. I saw my parents work 2 or 3 jobs. I was tired. I was working since I can remember. And I'm like, I'm tired of being responsible, daggone it. I want to play. I never got a childhood.
Yeah.
I want to play. And I think that's my mind just said, shut it down
Right.
and go play.
Yeah, enough of this serious stuff.
Enough of the serious stuff. And then
Yeah.
I realized over the years when Mali Creative was launched in 2011, that was the name of the company at the time. In my mind, I always had an intention of it being a freelance kind of consultancy where it was just me.
Right.
And then through the years, I realized, oh my gosh, my work is so much more than messaging from the heart. It's actually shifting corporate DNA. I'm working with leaders who then take all of this stuff that they have, transform themselves, and they're impacting their community, their businesses in a very positive way.
Yeah.
So going in and mapping corporate DNA, mapping vision, mission, messaging, and then being able to take the internal messaging, infuse it throughout the organization, and then take it out to market with the branding, that was so much greater than copywriting or messaging from the heart. So a few years ago, I said, okay, this is greater than me. The name of my company, Mali Creative, it's no longer about Mali being creative. It's time to build this so that I can really create true change in our business community and thus the world, because business people and business leaders run this world when it comes to how we impact on a global economic scale. So that's what happened. I rebranded a few years ago. I talked to you about it and told you why I wanted to keep the name community and network, even though it was very long, because I wanted both. I wanted to have a business that ran with a mindset of being very tribal. We're in this together, let's soar together. But I also, with the left brain, I also know that people resonate not with tribe and community in the business world so much. It's changing now. But network and networking is something that resonates with them. So I really wanted to make sure that we honored helping every business leader see, own, articulate, and release their unique message and mission into the world.
Well, I mean, and I do want to jump right into this whole concept of vision. I put a definition out there so that we can just take a look at what it means from a vision definition perspective, not only when it comes to what you might personally see, but also what it means to actually cast that vision statement out there. So take a look at this. So, so a vision is an experience of seeing someone or something in a dream or trance, or as a supernatural apparition. Now, I'm sure that sounds really fuzzy and not at all like what you might be experiencing when you are thinking about launching a business or starting a business, but that's a very gross definition of it. We think of this idea as vision as something that we might actually see very clearly, but in fact it can be very fuzzy, very difficult to understand, and certainly very difficult to articulate. Once we have gotten to that place where we feel comfortable enough saying out loud exactly what it is that we might be seeing, then we are in a place where we can actually form or begin to form what we call a vision statement. And let's put that back up. So the vision statement is a company's roadmap indicating both what the company wants to become and guiding transformation initiatives by setting a defined direction for the company's growth. And that's very technical, it's very formal, but really what it really is just a group of words that are best chosen to really state what it is that we see when we're casting out this vision and wanting other people to not only understand it, but to actually take part in it, to want to help us apply it. And we'll talk about mission in just a minute, but this whole vision statement thing is a reflection of something that we see. It's in living form, it's in breathing form. And I'm talking about this because when you actually launched your vision for Molly Creative, and now we look at SOAR Community Network today, it was the same vision. It just evolved and it became clearer over time, which is why it was so comfortable for you to pivot.
Yes.
And to say, okay, well, now Molly Creative, this SOAR Community Network, or it's bigger than me. It's not about me. That's what your vision was long ago. But your time and your practice in your company helped that to evolve and to become even clearer.
I really love this point, Akia, because when we're working with businesses now, and we work in the small, rapidly growing business space, that's something that I can speak to personally. You know, when you clearly understand or know what your vision is for your business and for, well, first and foremost, for your life, and how that can be infused inside your business, right. It's really important to know that that North Star doesn't really change. What happens is the paths, you get more choices, right. And you have more options in terms of which roads you want to take to get there. And that's what I've discovered for myself is I've always wanted to have global impact as a human being. I've always wanted to be able to help people really shine or uncover their unique light and then just blast it out there, right? So that's like, from an ethereal standpoint, that's the ultimate mission, is like, we all have this amazing light, let's broadcast it. We have a unique signal, we have something to attract and to give to the world. And so I think from a vision standpoint, when we do this work of vision mission mapping, corporate DNA mapping, we want the leaders especially to know that if we can get to that deep core place and uncover their greatest vision, it makes everything else not easy, because organizations, as they grow, they have growing pains, but you have clarity, much more clarity around the decisions that you have to make as things become more and more complex.
Right. And one of the places I actually see people get stuck in 3 different spots when it comes to casting out a vision. And that first place is where the actual idea of vision intersects with actually saying what it is. So what it is that we see versus actually saying what it is that we see.
Right.
And feeling confident enough to actually put those words out into the atmosphere, and not, feeling afraid to be laughed at or to be challenged for clarification, to have to explain it. Even when we don't have all the words to explain it. And so I see people get stuck right there. They will walk around for 20 years with an idea in their heads versus putting it out there and allowing people to help them shape that vision. And sometimes it's because they're not, comfortable with it. Other times it's fear, like, I'm afraid to put this out because I don't know if someone's going to steal my idea, etc. What have you seen in terms of where people get stuck?
I just think, at least from our personal experience, from a business standpoint, but also from a heart standpoint, from me, is that we just don't know that there are tools out there. The reason why you and I and Jane and Tamika wrote that book is to give people that roadmap, right? To give them a process in which you can uncover your vision. It's not easy. You might have to go through the exercises several times in several phases of life too. It's not just a sit down, I'll do it overnight. But there are tools out there that can help guide you to uncover your greatest gifts, your greatest talents, your core values, what really intrinsically matters to you, what you came into the world with. And how do you actually align that with the talents and the experiences that life has offered you? So when you collect all of those things, and then you also have a mapping process that helps you, everything starts to bubble up. Your vision for your life, there's an overarching theme that keeps coming up over and over again. And we've mapped a lot of people now. I mean, since the book launch to all the different retreats that we've had and the different, it's just been a fantastic way for us to remind people that it is possible to claim your vision and mission for life and to know your purpose.
Right. I mean, and this map that we're talking about, it's called vision and mission mapping, and it starts with that vision being at the top. And it's followed right by your actual mission, and then there is a set of outcomes that we can create. And no matter how you approach that, you can approach it from, well, this is what I'm actually looking to see happen, and that looks like outcomes to many people. They might start right there. Some people might start with the mission. Our recommendation is that you start with the vision, because you'll end up going backwards anyways. You're gonna have to go back to vision anyway. So, and like I said earlier, it's really difficult for many people to put that out there, because sometimes, and actually in most cases, it's a very, very big thing that most times has not been done before, or at least it has not been done the way that you see it to be done. And so just that in itself requires some real work around the articulation of it. And then there are these other, parts of that that vision and mission map process that look like objectives. And when you get down to the nitty gritty part of it, which is the tactical areas and the strategies, that's where a lot of people like to work. And so those parts of the actual process are a lot of fun, because you get to do some work, you get to roll up your sleeves. But when it comes to the vision part of it, that first part, like I said, where I see people get stuck is on actually putting it out there, feeling comfortable enough to actually articulate what it is that they see. That second part that I see many people becoming stuck is actually on the implementation. So they now have this vision statement that they've created, and they feel very comfortable that this is a reflection of the vision that I see. Now it's just a matter of, well, let's put some real practical work to this vision. And sometimes it's not as exciting, it's not sexy, it's not fun to get your hands dirty in the work of working or trying to realize your vision. How do you help people tap into the fun after they've done all of that beautiful vision work?
Akia, it's so interesting, because after mapping hundreds of leaders, you realize that when you have a pragmatic minded leader, they love the tactical. And when you have a visionary who's running the business, they can't stand it.
That's awful.
So what happens is we have to make sure that we know who we're mapping to, right? So for instance, if we're mapping a business owner or a leader inside an organization who is very pragmatic, who is very left brain, highly analytical, they do not want to touch the vision stuff. It's like, what is this for? It's not making us money. It's wasting my time.
Right.
I don't think we need it.
Right.
We just got to go fix the problem now. And what we have to do is convince them that without the vision, without the direction and clarity for your team, you're going to have to redo some of the things you implement over and over again. So although in this moment in time, CEO who has the practical brain, it's really important that you understand the outcome of doing it and how it impacts the bottom line and what's the opportunity cost of not doing it. Now, the flip side to that is also then working with someone who really loves the visionary stuff, and I'm one of those. I'm a visionary. And then
30,000 foot pie in the sky. Love it.
They are so excited when we get started. It's like,
Yeah.
I want to talk about my vision map. Do we get to draw it out? Can I do my whiteboard? It's really fascinating when you have a visionary who has the right side of the brain highly activated. So then when it comes time to implementation, they struggle with that.
Right.
So sometimes our team, if it's a small company that doesn't have a lot of folks who are able to implement, our team will go in and actually help to implement that. But just to your point, though, it is fun when you're the visionary to do the vision mission piece. But if we work with CEOs all the time who are service related, who are highly analytical, and they don't want to start with vision and mission.
Right.
They want to start with, what do I need to do? Give me my tactical recommendations so my team can go fix it.
Right, and that's not
You need
uncommon.
both.
Right, you need both, but you still have to end up going back to it. And I know it's not always pleasant, but you'll thank yourself, if you go ahead and just start that process. One of the things that I found about Seen and Sustained, after having reviewed it over the years, of course, and worked with different people who have worked with the model, both those who started at the beginning and went all the way through, and then those who may have just done parts of it to get themselves through their business plan, if you will. It's, for me, I see that many people like to do a certain section of it. So there are some people who might come and say, I just need to do the vision statement section of it. I have a lot of other things in business. I've been in business for a while. I really need to fine tune this. And then there are others who have a very strong vision statement, but they've skipped over the mission statement altogether. So their organization operates on vision. And when it comes to the work that we're doing right now today, that part of it is underdeveloped. And then there are some other folks who might just jump right into that very quick and dirty marketing planning process that we have in the back of the book. And so it's just amazing to see how different people approach it and how different people walk away with what they need to plug right into their business plans.
Yes, we've had to tweak a lot of the mapping process that we've all together put in this book for the purposes of what SOAR is doing inside organizations with the corporate DNA, just because of that. It really depends on the leadership team that we're working with, right? We work with different industries. Some of them are highly creative, others are not so. So the process itself, the framework is all equal, but the way in which we approach it is different depending on each leadership team, each corporation.
Right. And so it's like I said, it's just amazing to watch people and to work with people who will just, send back the statement that they create. One of the things that we talk about is that, you can do it on your own, or you can work, with someone like us who's a mapping expert. But it's amazing when I watch people actually do it by themselves and send me examples of vision statements that they've come up with. And it's also very interesting when I have to go back and say, well, this really isn't big enough. This is a lot like a mission statement. This really isn't 30,000 feet. I'll bet if you had the resources, you could accomplish this today. And that's one way to know that you're really not looking at a vision statement, or you're not digging deep enough if you actually have the resources to complete something, or you could get your hands on the resources to complete something, and you're just not able to do that. That tells you that you're really not operating at that vision level. So how do you work with people to help them go higher when they feel as if they're already in the sky?
I think it comes down to, again, this is the part that's hard for the left-brained leaders, is we have to really take it to that emotional place. We have to really uncover the motivation behind the why, right? People talk about uncovering your why. We have to get underneath the why to understand why the why, right? And I think that that's the work that a lot of leaders, and I'll be very honest, going inside organizations and working with leaders to ask them to invest time and money to do something like this, if it's not a progressive company already, it's difficult to sell. But the outcome, once we convince them, once we suggest and they actually honor it, it transforms the entire organization. It transforms them as a human being and then a leader. And I will say that it really comes down to why it even matters in the first place. Why are they there? What are they there to do in the grand scheme of things? And that helps to heighten their vision tremendously, like exponentially. If we can tap into their own purpose of being here and what they want to contribute to the world on a personal level. Once we get there, the rest of it, vision, mission for corporate mapping, all that stuff, team alignment, it becomes so much more in flow when the leader is on board and now tapped in and remembers. Because with life and with business growth, we have a tendency to develop amnesia because things get hard. We get overwhelmed. And Victor recently brought up this great analogy because he had some epiphanies as a leader recently. And he said, oh my gosh, it was like I had amnesia and I now just remembered.
Wow.
I just remembered who I am. I remember what I stand for. I remember why we're doing this.
Wow.
And if we can get a leader, one leader at a time, or a group, a team, to get to that moment, why they really understand, why they come to work every day. It's everything.
Well, way to go, Victor, for having that epiphany. That's awesome. One of the things, that third thing that I mentioned earlier in terms of where I see people get stuck or sort of retreat, or just get all together frustrated, is in being able to hold themselves accountable once they actually have that vision in place. Once they're actually working toward that vision. And you used a word just a second ago, hard or difficult. It's hard work when you actually install a vision or you put your vision in place and you get everybody on board, and people are looking for instant results, successful results. And it doesn't look like that right away. As a matter of fact, might take quite some time. Now, I'm not talking about bottom line results or financial results, but I'm talking about financial and also mission oriented results, because I do believe that both are required in order for you to have, true satisfaction with your vision long term. And so that's one of the places where I see people get stuck. It's right there at, we've been doing it this way. And, not saying that, it's not better than it was as a company, or that we're not functioning or more healthy as a company than we were yesterday. But I don't see why we wouldn't just go ahead and pursue that opportunity over there. It's not a part of the vision or the mission in terms of the way that we've casted it out, but it certainly is a developing market opportunity. And so helping people just stay on track, and not saying that you don't pursue those opportunities to increase or diversify your portfolio, but some of those opportunities really are not a part of the overarching plan.
Yes.
How do you keep people on track when they want to chase the new shiny objects?
It's much easier to keep small business owners on track because there are less dynamic personalities involved and other visions, personal visions that are also involved in this conversation, intentions and motivations. When you go to a larger organization, it does get a little bit more challenging. And the way we are able to really keep everybody at the leadership level, down to management, down to everybody in the organization really, is to work sometimes team by team, division by division, remind them, go back, every quarter and do surveys. I mean, there's so many different ways in which to do that. But the one thing that we highly recommend our clients, if they're going to engage us, to continue making sure that their vision and mission is being lived. I mean, it's being lived on the ground level, right? I mean, it's not just living on the walls. It's being infused like an organism. Everybody in the cell is working and is moving toward that one mission. And it takes a lot of commitment from the leadership team. It takes a lot of dollars. And it takes an outside organization sometimes to go in, because we'll ask tough questions, or we'll sometimes ask what you people would consider dumb questions, because we're not a part of that bureaucratic system. We're naive to it. So we see things that may actually not make sense to keep doing because we're removed from it. So I would say, how do we do it? It's consistently reminding the leaders that there's a need for everybody to always feel connected to the mission. So there's some tactical ways to do that, workshops, retreats, but a consistent, constant, repetitive alignment. It's all about team alignment, leadership alignment. And it's not a one-time, let's go map out your DNA. Here's your book of knowledge, go do it. That doesn't work. That doesn't work.
I want to talk more about mission and vision on the other side of the break. So stay right there. We'll be right back with more on Think Big.
Black Student Fund has been around for more than 50 years, and it served as an important resource for many, many families in the area who may not have always felt welcomed to independent schools. For school heads and administrators like me, it's a bit of a party and celebration coming to this, not only seeing other school personnel, but to meet so many families some of whom have traveled from a distance, and I think they know that this is the one fair where they're going to see all the schools in the area.
Independent schools are such a wonderful resource for all the families, but particularly for families of color who may not have necessarily access that we need them to have. So this is a place where you can literally see every kind of education possible in the independent school world. So we have to give everyone an equal playing field. Black Student Fund allows us to do that.
We provide more insight into the admissions process, which has become.
Welcome back to Think Big. I'm your host, Akia Garnett, and I'm joined this week by my friend Molly Phonpadith, and we are talking about all things vision. And, Molly, how do you help people actually break into the safety of creating at least the words that might help them start out their vision statement, especially when they just feel rusty?
I think it's really important for us to start out by understanding your personality and what resonates with you. So a lot of folks will say, well, just start journaling. But if you're not a writer, if you've never been interested in it, that won't work for you. So if you're an artist, if you're a creative person, or if you are more analytical and auditory, like record your thoughts. Just get it out of your body, get out of your mind. What makes you happy? What are my truest gifts that came with me? What have I been able to uncover through the years, through my experience, that has now a talent that I can offer and gift to the world? And I think when you think about vision, vision is something that has to supersede just what it can do for you. Vision is something that you came into the world with your unique offerings and your life experiences, the collective of all those things to make you who you are, a unique package now that you can basically gift to the world. How do you do that? In what channel? In what form? So that's the type of thinking that requires, that visioning exercises require. Some people do it through vision boards, Some people do it through paintings or drawing it out, or just, like I said, really recording it and speaking truth to whatever they believe is theirs to give. Some people practice in the mirror. I think the most important thing is to really first begin by accepting that you want to have a true clear picture of your vision for life. And if you want that, and if the motivation behind wanting that is genuinely there and comes from a soulful and divine place, it'll activate you. It'll help you find the way to uncover what that is.
Right, and you actually have created a questionnaire to help people tap into that, right?
Yes, for those that are stuck and don't even know where to begin, like what's the first question I ask myself when I want to uncover my vision and mission for life, let alone my business? You can go on our website, SOARCommunitynetwork.com. That's SOAR. communitynetwork.com. On the homepage, there's a questionnaire. If you want to focus on personal vision and mission, there's one for that. If you want to focus on business or corporate, trying to figure out what your company's vision and mission is, there's one for that. It's free to fill out, and if you want a 30-minute free consult, we'll also contact you to request that as well.
Right. Just to touch on this whole concept of mission versus vision, how do you help people understand the difference between the two?
I think vision is very, like I said, like you were mentioning, very big, very high level, something that you might not accomplish in this lifetime, but it's your guiding light, right? You're going to do whatever it takes to get close to completing that mission, that vision, or manifesting that vision as possible. Mission, however, mission is all about what you can start doing today with the tools that you have, with the experience that you have, that can actually move you one step at a time closer to realizing the vision for your life. That's the difference. That's the activating part, is the mission work.
Right, and the book does have a great section on mission statement writing too, and the default there is to make sure that it actually does connect back to the vision, that it's not a repetitive, process, or the words are not synonymous. It's not the same thing, but it actually does complement that vision, and you can see that dotted line to seeing it come to reality. Now, you've got so many other great things going on, Molly. How can people stay in touch with you and stay up on all the good things that you've got coming down the pike?
think the easiest way to reach me and reach our company is through the website, SOARCommunityNetwork.com. And then to follow me on social media, my handle is at Mali Phonpadith, and it'll be in your show notes how to spell that. So you can just find me, Google me, and SOAR Community Network is probably the best place to start.
Right, and you've speaking anytime soon? Have any engagements coming up?
I do have a couple of speaking engagements coming up in January all the way up to March, and they'll be announced soon on the website.
Awesome.
So follow us on social media.
All right, well, thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
joining me again, Mali. It's always, always, always a pleasure. And you're just such a wealth of knowledge. I really, really appreciate you sharing your expertise, bringing your publications. Check Mali out. Go on Amazon. You can buy all of these.
Buy all these.
You can buy them all on Amazon. And also check her out. What's your URL again, Mali?
It's SOAR, S-O-A-R, CommunityNetwork.com.
And check me out online as well. I'm at AkiaGarnett.com. I'm also all over social. You can find me there. Download upcoming, information, schedules, and so forth on various publications that I'm a part of. You can also check out the blog on ThinkBIG, and you can also check out the column Master Your Brand, which is published in every edition of Minority Business Entrepreneur magazine. I'll see you next time. Thank you for tuning in to Think Big.